Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian Podcast, episode 46. We're available on anchor.fm/Travis Damian Podcast, along with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. If you guys would like to ask us any questions, you can leave a voice message at the Anchor link or in the YouTube comment section. Today, we're going to be talking about Xbox news, Amazon's cloud gaming service, and Steve and Smash Brothers. Then we'll get into our recent activities. Lastly, is the news related to Spider-Man PS5 Remaster. So first is the big news that sort of broke out, I believe, earlier this week or whenever that happened. Xbox acquired Bethesda's parent company, which in turn also made Bethesda a part of the Xbox team. So they acquired it for $7.5 billion cash, by the way. So it's kind of crazy. Xbox will be honoring the PlayStation 5 exclusivity for Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. Future games like Starfield will be available on Xbox PC and Microsoft's Game Pass video game service. And Phil Spencer said that they would be considering other consoles on a case-by-case basis. And now, this also means Bethesda and Obsidian are now sister studios, so Fallout New Vegas 2 is now actually a possibility. So, what do you think, Damian? Because I'm not the Bethesda guy, but I know you are.
I wouldn't say I'm a big Bethesda guy because, I think most of their games are just okay. I love Obsidian, and then having Bethesda and Obsidian be sister companies and like Fallout New Vegas 2 could actually happen. That's a very exciting thing since New Vegas was like an extremely great game, and I'm really excited if that's an actual possibility they could do now. But just speaking of Obsidian, Bethesda kind of puts Obsidian kind of in an awkward spot because they basically we're gonna make Fallout but different with Outer Worlds, and now they're making Avowed, I think it's called, which is basically like not Skyrim but Skyrim, or I'm sorry, Elder Scrolls but not Elder Scrolls for Obsidian. And now that they're like basically together again, it's like weird. But in terms of the actual buyout, it's a large buyout. Like, I believe this was more than Xbox paid for Minecraft, I believe. And this is more than Disney paid for Star Wars. So yeah, this is an absolutely ginormous buyout. And with Xbox having this like Bethesda's IPs, it's really going to help them with like their exclusivities and stuff like that. Since for a while, I think Xbox kind of like sort of like didn't have the IP power, I guess. They only had like Gears and Halo, right? For a really long time, that's all they really had. And now people don't really care too much about Halo with Halo Infinite, as we can see with the whole like backlash of it not looking too good and things like that. And I don't think Gears really holds the same power it used to do. Like, people don't get that excited about new Gears as they used to do. So now them having like Elder Scrolls and Starfield or whatever Bethesda would make is going to be a really huge deal now. And plus whatever of the other companies they have now, like Arcane Studios with Deathloop and the people who made Ghostwire and I forgot what they were called. But it's a really big deal. It is a huge deal having the next Elder Scrolls be an exclusive Xbox thing and I guess PC. That's gonna definitely sell some Xboxes, and it's definitely gonna sell some Game Passes as well. Since I think that's what Microsoft's like big end game is gonna be now, is just Game Pass. And I think I mentioned this before with the rising prices of games now, is that Game Pass is gonna seem a lot more appealing just because if games really are $70, people would rather just pay a subscription service where they could play the newest game for just like $10 a month or whatever. Like, it just seems more appealing now. So I think Microsoft is making some big brain moves. I think they're really thinking ahead in the future. And if Sony isn't too careful, they could end up slipping a bit this gen. So we just gotta see. But it's definitely a big purchase, and like it's a big deal. Like, it's a big deal. If you're not paying attention to this, then then I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, definitely saw a tweet where it was like, PlayStation/Sony was like trying to negotiate with Bethesda for console exclusivity while Xbox was just trying to buy the whole fucking company. And I was like, yeah, it's very interesting way to put it. But yeah, Microsoft definitely a bold move by them, and I'm not sure if this is going to elevate. I mean, like, it is going to elevate their exclusivity stuff, but I'm not sure how much it is, because I know that when it comes to Bethesda games in general, they sort of have like that sort of core audience that like they like Doom, they like Fallout, they like Dishonored and Wolfenstein, those sort of IPs. But like I'm not sure if that's able to compete with PlayStation when it comes to God of War, Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank, etc. So it's going to be really tough to see how much this is going to greatly increase Xbox, because I know they're very, very like friendly with like everyone sort of thing. Like they're very much like consumer thing. And like we discussed last episode that like Sony is very much like console exclusive, and like we're trying to sell consoles and we're trying to sell games. So they're definitely looking for like the bigger dollar. But like you said, since Xbox's sort of end game is Game Pass, and I think that once they reach that goal where it's like Game Pass is like so good, it's kind of hard to like not have it. That's when they're probably gonna have the edge over PlayStation, because right now like PlayStation, they said that they were going to do like that whole like PlayStation 4 games on PlayStation Plus for the PlayStation 5 sort of collection thing. But yeah, I mean, Bethesda getting bought out, $7.5 billion is still a big thing. So
yeah, it's definitely gonna shape what happens next gen. And speaking of that, more Microsoft / Xbox stuff. Xbox allows you to download plus install games even if you don't own it. So this is really cool, because since games are like humongous now, I think like you can just look at a new Call of Duty, right? Like that's like 200 gigabytes or something ridiculous like that.
yeah.
And just most modern AAA games are just like at least minimum they're like 90 gigs now. Like I was actually impressed that Ghost of Tsushima was like as small as it was. I think it was like 40 gigs or something. Because yeah, most AAA games nowadays is like 90 gigs minimum, and I think we're gonna see that even higher next gen. So I think allowing people to like basically pre-install and download these games before you even own it is very smart. Hopefully this doesn't lead to people like data mining or doing some other stuff like because that's always a very dangerous thing to have happen. I'm sure they figure it out, but yeah, again, this is just an example of Microsoft being very pro-consumer. And I think Microsoft can make these moves. Like they can make these bold moves because they're still Microsoft. Like Microsoft is still way bigger than Sony as a company. Maybe not like games wise. I think Xbox kind of took a hit last gen just because I don't think the Xbox One is as popular as the PS4. But still, yeah, you still gotta remember that Microsoft itself is still humongous. They made Windows. So
Yeah.
they're able to make big moves like this. They're able to do Game Pass. They could take hits like that. To sort of get like the gamers on their side, if you will. And Sony can't really do that since Sony is a smaller company and like they're not as big as Microsoft in general, so they can't really offer these benefits that all the Xbox players and I guess in turn PC players could get. So yeah, if Microsoft keeps this up, they could like really take ahead in this next generation if Sony isn't careful about like when they release their exclusives or not. Because right now the strongest thing about Sony and the PlayStation is it's exclusive still. So, but in terms of like services and things like that, I think Microsoft has them like beat. So
Yeah. Definitely. This whole thing about like being able to preload games before you even get the disc is very nice because, like you said, games are just getting bigger and bigger. And because like that would be like my thing is that like when I would get like a new game, I'm like, all right, there's going to be a day one update. I have to like install stuff. Like this is like, I would probably have to wait like at least half an hour later than after like opening the game up and putting it in to like finally play it. But since they're allowing you to install these games before you even get it in the mail or whatever the case is, that's very nice. And I think that maybe PlayStation will implement this in the future, but like you said, data mining and all that leaking sort of stuff might be a little out there. So they're probably gonna have to figure that out eventually. But definitely a whole pro gamer sort of move where they're allowing you to pre-download it because I think that a lot of people don't realize it, but in America in particular, like there's a lot of people who don't have great internet, and if you want great internet, you're gonna have to pay a lot of money for it. So yeah, to those people that aren't able to download the game as fast as like their friend's house, they're able to still download and still play it while they're waiting for something else or whatever the case is. So very nice of Microsoft once again to do this for the consumers. Next bit of news we got here is Amazon just dropping that they're doing a cloud gaming service, Luna. Obviously, this is a competitor to the Google Stadia. So there's a lot of details here, and I'll try to my best to get through them as fast as possible. So it's going to be available on PC, Mac, Fire TV, and iPhone and iPad via web browsers or web apps, and Android will be coming shortly after launch. The price of the service is $5.99 a month. Subscribers will be able to play Luna Plus channels, games across 2 devices simultaneously, and offer 4K/60 FPS resolution for select titles. So what that means is that it's probably not going to be for every game, but they're probably going to try to aim for 4K/60 FPS. There's going to be over 100 games available at the launch of Luna Plus channels, including Resident Evil 7, Control, Panzer Dragoon, A Plague Tale, Innocence, The Surge 2, Yooka-Laylee, Grid, Azu, and Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. More channels will be added over time. There's a partnership with Ubisoft where you can play the best Ubisoft titles, including new titles like the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Far Cry 6. There will be Twitch integration. You can play with mouse and keyboard, Bluetooth controller, or the Amazon Luna controller with Alexa enabled. And that's going to be $50. And the Luna controller connects to cloud effortlessly and has low latency. So, the fact that Amazon is even announcing and creating a cloud gaming service to compete against Google Stadia, when Google Stadia isn't even that hot right now, is just them trying to make sure that they're on the same playing field as Google, because they're pretty much the 2 biggest companies on the planet right now. And yeah, I mean, if you're into trying out the whole cloud gaming service, it's only $6 a month. So what can you really lose there other than $6? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I'm not super interested in it because the main problem with like cloud gaming services is that like it only offers like third-party titles. So there's not a lot of like exclusivity stuff that they could really do there without the game developers actually taking a risk with the service, because it's only going to be available on this platform that's a streaming gaming service, and that's still like relatively new for gaming in general. So yeah, I think that that's like the main problem with like streaming services in general, is that like there's not like a lot of games that you can't buy elsewhere outside of the service. So
yeah, I just like, I don't know, I still feel like the cloud gaming thing is still like a little like too early. I feel like we still need to wait like a couple, like maybe like, I don't know, maybe this gen, like mid-gen of next gen, mid-generation of next gen will probably be by the time maybe technology can handle it. But like as you said, having like our internet connections still aren't like great. Like even the best ones still can't really handle Stadia things too well and things like that. It's just like, it just, it doesn't really, it doesn't work. Like, I mean, it works, but like having it be, just like having the latency issues like we talked about, basically all the issues I had when we talked about Google Stadia just, works for Luna as well. I guess, it works because it's only a subscription, right? Like, with Google Stadia, you had to buy the thing in order to play Stadia stuff, right?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if they implemented a subscription model. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Google Stadia, where like you actually have to buy the games like at full price, which is like, why would you do that when you could buy it elsewhere on Steam or actually physically or whatever? So I think the subscription model is definitely a lot better and more safer, just because it is a new sort of technology for gaming in general. So
right. I mean, the $6 a month is good. Like, that's really cheap. Because having services be like $15, I think that's when people are like, okay, I can't really do this or anything like that. But having
HBO
like
Max is like $15. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think $5, or I guess $6 a month really is a fair price. I kind of see this as more like these streaming services. I kind of see them more as like replacing rental games, where you kind of just try it out. You can try any game. It's safe to just try whatever you want. You can just stream it directly. You don't really need. It's not like a big time investment to research the game if you would like it, to download it or whatever. You could just pop. I guess not pop it in, but I guess select it from a menu, play it, see if you like it, and then just keep playing it, or maybe buy it on a console. But, yeah, that's. I mean, I think this is better than Stadia just because the price is like way lower. It's only like a really low monthly fee, and you got access to all this stuff, and you could use like keyboard and mouse and whatever controller you have. You don't have to use. I don't think like Stadia. I think you had to use the Stadia controller and things like that. So, yeah, it definitely seems like a better competitor to the Stadia, but it's still like I still think it's a little too early for cloud gaming services. But who knows? Maybe Amazon could do it.
Yeah, maybe they can.
All right. So next we got a hot new news. This just was like an hour ago or 2 hours ago from when we're actually recording this. Sakurai announced there's gonna be a new Smash character, and that Smash character ended up being Steve from Minecraft. So Steve from Minecraft is here. They just showed the trailer. They're gonna be showing more on Saturday, the 3rd, October 3rd, during like I guess some Minecraft show or whatever. Where I guess that's where he's gonna do his typical thing where he talks about like the moveset and things like that. But just for general reactions, I was just shocked. I was just like, wow, they actually added Steve from Minecraft into Smash Brothers. And I guess apparently he broke Twitter. Like Twitter just died when he was announced. So so I'm not mad. Like I'm not like mad he's in there. I know some people are very angry that Steve is here just because he's like a meme. But I do think he represents like a lot, just as an indie game character. I know you can't really call him indie anymore because he's like the top selling game like ever. But from what he represents, he represents the indie crowd. Again, he is the like best selling game ever. And I definitely think he deserves a spot in Smash. And from his moveset, from what they showed in this trailer, it looks like he's gonna be really unique. Where like he could like build blocks, he could use like redstone and TNT and all that stuff. So yeah, he looks fun. But yeah, it's definitely weird to just see Steve just because he's a meme. So I don't know what your thoughts on this is, but
yeah, I mean he's just a super unique character that people memed on for like years, like, yo, Steve from Minecraft, yo, Master Chief. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, now Steve from Minecraft is actually in Smash Brothers. So my initial reaction was just like, okay, I guess we're doing this. Like you said, I'm not mad or upset because I think that getting super pissed off about game characters being introduced for Smash Brothers is like not necessary, like at all. Like I get being disappointed or being like, oh, like why that character, but like being like super angry and frustrated, like with Byleth, or like or that character was the newest Fire Emblem character, right? That they like introduced for the last Fighter Pass or whatever. But yeah, it's just like if you're getting like super upset about it, like just like take a chill pill for a second. And like Sakurai explained that like since like Steve is like a very popular character, like it did make sense to have him in Smash Brothers. But I'm glad that they didn't do like anything weird or anything drastic with like the character design, because it's very simple. It's just like a 32 16-bit sort of character that's just walking around making blocks and making swords or whatever. So very interested to see how the moveset actually works Saturday, because it seems like a very unique character. Probably could suck for competitive, but who knows? But yeah, Steve's actually in Minecraft now, guys. So anything could really happen with the last couple of characters coming. Because I know that last night on Twitter, people were like, "Yo, Sora." I was like, I mean, if it happens, it happens.
He's feeling anime swordsman.
Oh my god!
They're never happy, dude. No one's ever happy.
Yeah, it's so hard to please everyone, but I'm sure that there's a couple of people out there that are super excited for Steve because it was Minecraft was like their childhood, or like they really do like Minecraft as a series. But me personally, I'm just like, okay, cool. Like they put Steve in Smash Brothers. It was a meme for the longest time, but now he's actually in Smash Brothers. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. But
yeah, that's all I gotta say. I'll probably say more once the show properly show off his moveset and things like that on Saturday. So yeah, that's gonna be something to look forward to.
All right, so now let's get into our recent activities. I will let you go first because we're gonna do ReZero spoilers at the end of my segment.
All right, so I've been playing Hades. It's really good. Like I said before, I think I talked about it in when it came out like a year ago or something. I think it was like a year ago on the Epic Game Store. And yeah, I said it had a lot of potential. It had a good, like really like solid voice acting, narrative, all that good stuff. About things you would expect from a roguelike, plus the things Supergiant is known for, which is the art style and like the narrative focus and things like that. Um, but Hades, like now that I played the finished bit of it, like well, I finished it twice. Apparently, you need to beat it 10 times to get the true ending, so I haven't done that yet. I will say it's on the easier side of roguelites. Once you really get the mechanics down and know what weapon you really want to use, it's not too difficult, and they did that on purpose since the game wants you to sort of like go through the whole like narrative because Supergiant probably wants the players to like play it for the story if they're like
Mm-hmm.
into that sort of thing, since all their other games were based off that. So they don't want their players that are fans of their games to be punished by the more harsh, I guess, gameplay style of a roguelite where they're supposed to be very difficult. I mean, it still took me a while to actually beat Hades himself, which, spoiler alert, he's the final boss. um, but yeah, he is a hard final boss. But besides that, I think all the bosses are really well designed. They all have really clear telegraphs when they're going to do attacks and things like that. They spice it a bit where each boss kind of has like a variant on them, at least the first two floors. The third floor boss is the same. I don't know if that changes later, which it might. I haven't. Again, I only played it. I only finished it twice so far. But yeah, I guess like the main issues I have with the game itself, I've already said like the art's great, voice acting is great, story is really good so far. I can't really comment too much until I actually beat the game, quote unquote, with the true ending or whatever. I guess in terms of like things, negative things I could say about it is the itemization isn't as good as things like Gungeon or Isaac, where there's just a ton of items and they all synergize with each other and everyone really feels different. This game I think is kind of lacking on that with the boon system where you basically just collect this orb, right? And it has like a god, and each like Olympian god has like different things. Like Zeus will have more lightning based attacks, and like Aphrodite will like make people weak or whatever. And it's cool, and they synergize sometimes. You can have some cool combos going on, but it definitely feels a little more samey than things like Isaac and Gungeon, where there's just so many different items and passives that totally change your playstyle. But something I think this game does really well is the weapon system, where basically there's no different characters you can play as, which is kind of a big deal in roguelites. And Isaac, you have a bunch of different characters, and Gungeon, you have a bunch of different characters. In Hades, you only play as the main guy, but you have 6 different weapons. And I honestly think this is better than having different characters because, again, in Isaac and Gungeon, when you switch characters, nothing really changes about your playstyle. In Isaac, you still shoot tiers. In Gungeon, you still shoot guns. It's just like you start with different items, and maybe they have some special parameter around them. Like the Lost in Isaac, you can only get hit once and you die. Or in Enter the Gungeon, you have the robot who can only have armor and not hearts or anything like that. So it's not that big of a difference. Like your character still plays the same. You still shoot and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In Hades, each weapon feels totally different. Like I'm a big fan of the shield, where if you hold the attack button, you could like sort of like charge up for like a charge. But you can also block a bunch of projectiles, and that's amazing. It's a real big lifesaver since there's not too many bullet hell type bosses in this game, but Hades does throw a lot of projectiles at you, and having that shield is very nice. But on the downside, it does really low damage. But that also works with the boon system because you could I made the shield just apply a bunch of debuffs and stuff like that. So and the shield is really good at that since you have your special for it, which you could throw it like Captain America and like bounces off a bunch of enemies. So you could apply all those debuffs to all the enemies and it just works really well. But then you have other weapons like the sword, which is like a good balance of like attack and defense, where you do a lot more damage than the shield, but you also have to get close and things like that. And then yeah, and you also have like guns and like bow and arrows and things like that for more range options and stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really neat. I think they really did a good job making each weapon feel different, and it really offsets really needing multiple characters and things like that. Um, but yeah, no, it's just a very good game. I think all the praise it's getting is really good. I highly enjoy it. And yeah, it's worth getting. I think it's on Switch and PC.
Yep.
I don't think it's on anything else right now. But yeah, I definitely enjoy it. I want to play it more before I really give my final opinion on it. But right now, it's really up there with Isaac and Gungeon as being one of my favorite roguelites. And yeah, it deserves all the praise it's been getting.
Mm-hmm.
The next roguelite I've been playing is Spelunky 2. That also just came out, I think, 2 days ago. on PC. It was been on PS4 for like a week, I think. So Spelunky, I've never actually been that big of a fan of the original one, or I guess the HD one, whatever, the one that came out on 360 and stuff. Um, and yes, basically it's a 2D platforming roguelite, and you basically just go down, keep going down, and then you fight. I mean, it's different from the other ones, right? Because this one isn't based off killing a bunch of enemies or items and things like that. There's items and stuff, but it's not like you're really building an ultimate run. The game feels a lot more predetermined on what path you want to go for. So there's like a bunch of really cool secrets you could do that are really obscure, but really makes you feel like you're like spelunking down like this temple and things like that. And it's just very different from what I'm used to, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just something I never really gelled with. And it's also really hard. It's probably the hardest roguelite I've ever played. At least the first one was. I never really beat it either, just because I didn't have that much interest in the game to keep going. And Spelunky 2 really keeps that difficulty, because I think it's honestly difficult to a fault, where the first like area. So I played 3 hours of this game, and I didn't make it past the first area just because of how absurdly difficult it is. There's like a lot of enemies, and there's like a lot of enemy types with like they are pretty tanky. Like they take like 3 hits to kill, and when you hit an enemy, they sort of stun, so you have to wait until they're unstunned to hit them again, and then you can hurt them again. So yeah, it's really time consuming and kind of annoying, to be honest. And I think they could really tone down the difficulty of the first like level. I know that just sounds like, oh, you're just a baby, just beat it, which I know, but I really do feel like people are having the same complaint as I am, where I feel like the first area is just way too tough for its own good. And they should really at least take out a few enemy types or nerf the health of some of these enemies, because I feel like it's a little too ridiculous right now. But in terms of that, it is just Spelunky again, just with like more items and things like that, new NPCs, new secrets to find, and all that good stuff. And yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, but it's definitely a game that is way more skill focused and getting lucky with like what items you get on certain floors. And don't get me wrong, like things like Gungeon also require a lot of skill to get through. But, there really is nothing to help you in Spelunky 2. It's really just your own skill and how you avoid enemy patterns and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm a fan of it. I'm going to give it more of a try. I do want to, like, at least beat it once. But, yeah, it still isn't really my favorite roguelite like a lot of other people's are. But I'll keep giving it a shot. I do want to beat the game, actually, this time. So, yeah. And I guess the last thing is Mario 3D All-Stars. I'm still playing Mario 64. Like I said before, I think it aged pretty well. I'm still having a good time with it. It's still really addicting to collect stars. I'm still disappointed that the game is not, more than it is, but that's just how it is. But yeah, that's all I've been doing. Nothing else. So.
Okay, I guess I'll jump off that and say I also played a little bit of Mario 3D All-Stars. Just a little bit of Mario 64. The game is probably not for me, because I'm just like, the controls. I mean, like, the way the game's laid out is fine with, like, collecting stars in, like, this one area. You could, like, get multiple stars, depending on, like, the mission and whatever. But I don't know. It's just, like, I'm not, like, super into it. I played a little bit of it, but I might just skip it and maybe try Sunshine again, because Sunshine's not even, like, up there either. When it comes to Mario games in general, I find myself gravitating more towards the newer ones, which people might be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Right. And it is what it is. It's just, I know, like, I'm very much the minority when it comes to Mario fans, because when I released my tier list and people were like, you put this there? And I'm like, that's not good. But it's my opinion. I really, don't care all that much. But yeah, Mario 64. I honestly tried like to play it for more time than I did during that play session. But I was just like, I'm not sure if I'm like super down with this, but I'll probably give it one more try. But the other game I was playing was Super Hot. It's the game with like the poly people, and you have to like
super hot.
Yeah. And when you move, time moves, so you have to like plan accordingly. It's honestly a super fun game. I probably should have played it a lot sooner than I actually did. But I was playing it because I was listening to the Trash Taste podcast, which is a podcast.
Yeah, you listen to that too?
Yeah, holy moly. Yeah, I listened to them because I I started watching, or first I watched Giguk, and then it was the Anime Man, and then Sea Dog. But the more I watch the podcast, the more I want to watch Sea Dog's content because he's just so funny and stupid. But yeah, I was just listening to that podcast while playing that game because you don't really need to listen for much when playing Super Hot. But yeah, Super Hot, really really dope game. I'm not sure if I finished it or not. I played it for like 2 to 3 hours. But there was like a certain point where like the game, if like the story, quote unquote, in terms of what happens in the game, where like the game starts to like, or like the dev starts like messing with the player or whatever. So I was just like, I think I'm done. I'm not entirely sure, but Super Hot is definitely a really really dope game. Next up is a bunch of anime. So first up, God of High School. This one just finished, I believe, this week, and like I said last episode, it's a really fast-paced shonen with pretty much the entire show being a tournament arc. The last couple of episodes are a bit weird and a bit far out there, I'm going to be honest. It's sort of just like, what the hell is going on now? Which is like, for some animes, like it kind of makes sense, but for this one, I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but it's more action and more fights, so I'm okay with that. This is still better than Tower of God in my opinion. I think Tower of God was just like a super like generic sort of like shonen that didn't exceed like my average taste for shonen, but also didn't go below it. It's literally just spot on in the middle. I think God of High School is just a little bit better than some shonens, but like the last couple of episodes, I was just like, I don't know what's going on. So but yeah, still like it's a fun shonen to watch just because it's only 13 episodes long. It's really fast paced, and the animation is also not that bad either. So and I think the characters are a little bit more memorable than Tower of God, because if you were to ask me to name a Tower of God character, I would not know their names. But I just finished watching God of High School, so that could be the same a couple months from now or whatever. The other anime I watched was Your Lie in April. I started talking about this last episode. It's a slice of life anime with music in it, and it's about this boy who's a pianist, and he's sort of retired, and he's being led on to come back from retirement, and you get to learn why he retired and the other backstories for these other people that are trying to get him to play the piano again. And it's a very very good anime. I really did enjoy it as a shonen trash person. This slice of life was really really fun to watch. And I read a little bit of the Hunter x Hunter manga. I didn't even get past a whole volume of it, but I pretty much am starting from where the anime left off, the 2011 anime, and just going from there. The setup for this next arc, I'm not sure if anyone really knows this, but it's about like the Dark Continent, sort of just like exploring more of like what the Hunter x Hunter world has to offer, which is very ambitious because already the world of Hunter x Hunter was really, really big. So now it's getting even bigger, and I like it so far. I haven't read it in like maybe a week now, but I definitely want to read more of it. Last thing is ReZero. So me and Damian are going to do quick no spoilers, and then I'm going to talk about spoilers because this show kind of does get crazy, but no spoilers whatsoever. It's a isekai, which if you guys don't know what that is, it pretty much means the main character gets transported into like another world. And for this anime, he gets transported into like this game world of like fantasy characters. And
no, it's not a game, but
well, kind of. I mean, like they talk about like mana and things like that, and like
that's true. I think that's just like it's just fantasy thing. I don't think they ever said it was a game, but yeah, you keep
yeah. I mean, it's just like he gets transported into like a fantasy world randomly, and he has to figure out how things happen and how the world works. That's all much I could really say without like giving like too much detail, because some people may consider that stuff as spoilers. But yeah, he's just a normal dude trying to live in this fantasy world, and to see stuff happen, and it's really good. I wouldn't say it's like 10 out of 10. I'd say it's like a really solid like 8 or 9 on a good day. But yeah, definitely like a really good anime. So what'd you think of it? No spoilers.
I mean,
but
yeah, I think I talked about it last time when I first saw it. Yeah, I really liked it. Obviously, there's things that I could see that some people wouldn't like, which when this first came out, I mean, I didn't watch it when it first came out. I watched it like about like a year ago, a few months ago, I think. And there's definitely elements of it that I could see that are annoying, and it's pretty prevalent on what that could be. But yeah, definitely I think the strengths outweighed the negatives, at least in the first season. And right now I'm watching a bit of the second season, and it seems a lot more people are gelling with that if they weren't so hot on season one, just because of one element, which I guess is the main character, right? Like it's either like you either like him or you don't like him, and I think the show does a good job doing things with him, but I'll save that for the spoiler part. But yeah, overall, I mean, I love it. I think it's one of my favorite animes. Besides, actually, I mean, like I said before, I think Attack on Titan is now my favorite anime, but this is a close second. And with season two, I'm gonna wait until I'm actually done with season two. But yeah, it gets better. So yeah, that's really all I could say about spoiling things. So.
Yeah, I would also recommend at least giving it a try. You'll really notice how good the anime is once you're like more than halfway through, which is kind of sad to say, but like once you get there, like it's just like, oh my god, what the hell is going on? So,
Yeah.
but now we will get into spoilers. So if you don't want to hear ReZero spoilers, just skip to us talking about Spider-Man. But yeah, I mean, like when I when I watched what was the end of episode 14 or something like that,
Yeah.
where it shows like when Subaru goes into the palace or whatever, the castle, and he sees like everyone's dead, including Rem, and then he like has that breakdown, and then he dies, and then he goes back to that save point, which is like pretty much most of the show, where like he dies and then he like has to relearn like what he did, and like how can I fix it, how can I change it, and like that aspect of the show is like really really good. I really did like that, because it was like, oh okay, so like he died and he's going back to the last sort of save point, but he has to sort of like act like he doesn't know anything, but also try to change the outcome of it.
Yeah. So yeah, that mechanical part of the show is very clever, and I just particularly like that bit of the show, since it kind of just feels like it's not even happening, and it just feels like nightmare scenarios after nightmare scenarios of him, like everyone dying and like horrible deaths, and Subaru just doesn't know what to do anymore, and he just like breaks down. And that's why I like just that final, like I think episode 15, where everything just finally just goes to shit, is just so good. Like I absolutely loved it. And again, it just shows Subaru's character, because all this whole first season kind of relies on Subaru if you gel with him or not, which I feel like some people would hate him because he's a simp. There's no denying he's a omega simp and White Knight, but that's kind of the point. Like that's why I loved it when he has that big fight with Amelia, but he's just acting super cringy and things like that. She's like, "What is wrong with you? Get away from me!" And I like that, because it shows like how much of a cringe lord he's being, and that he really needs to change, but he's still too pathetic himself to like do it like himself. So when he talks to Rem in like episode like 18 or 17, I can't remember, when he just has the whole prep talk with her, it was also really good. I love that episode as well. Just him really coming to own as his own character, not being so pathetic and like being like such a simp about everything. I loved it, and that's basically when the show like really started. Like all of the other episodes are just like prologues to for like Subaru's whole arc as a character, and it still carries over to season 2, which is great. Like he hasn't really degraded back into that really needy, like horrible person that he was before. So yeah, and I just think people take it too far when they hate Subaru, because that's kind of what the show wants you to do. The show kind of does want you to hate him, and I actually heard a lot of people in Japan didn't like his character just because it reminded them too much of him, like in general. That they really saw how annoying and like cringy he was, and they're like, "Oh my god, am I like that?" So I don't know. I think they really did a great job with his character, and I really did like Subaru with like how they portrayed like that side of like cringiness, and like just how he could overcome it and like be a better person and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but what was your thought on him actually? I'm curious what you thought about
Yeah,
Subaru
I mean, Subaru as a character, like he's not, like you said, he's not supposed to be like super likable. Like he's omega simping over Amelia, and like when Rem like confessed her love to him, and I was like, oh shit, like what is he gonna do? And he was like, I love Amelia. I was like, okay, yep, omega simp, yep. I mean, like it's just how he feels. He's not going to sort of be like, oh okay, this girl likes me now, I guess I'm just gonna go with her now, sort of thing, which I honestly, when I started watching the show, I didn't know that this is where the M versus Rem thing came from. I thought that was just
Yeah.
like a meme, but I was like, oh shit, it is a M versus Rem, and I was like, okay, now I get the meme after all these years.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think definitely the supporting cast around Subaru was very good. Like Rem, like as a character, like she was more fleshed out than I think anyone really expected her to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Subaru as a character, like I'm not like super keen on him, but I could see that he's just supposed to be like the average sort of like gamer person sort of thing, and
Yeah, like otaku guy.
yeah, and he's just a Omega simp, and that's just who he is. And I think that with the way the show played out is that like him being able to learn from his mistakes and him learning from the past experiences, having to see people die multiple times, and going back to the same save point, and seeing that like sort of like mental aspect just like affect him as much as it did was very cool to watch. And I think that yeah, just like the show, like when you finally get to the end, like the 25 episodes, I was just like, oh, okay, like that was like really, really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, like M versus Rem, like if y'all want to know my opinion on it, I just think that they spent a lot more time with Rem, to like really flesh out her, because like M, like she was the first girl in like the first couple of episodes, but after like that first like mini arc or whatever, and then they switch over to being more on Rem because they want to flesh out her character now, and she's more interesting because she's a half demon, she has a twin sister, and yeah, I think that it's definitely Rem over M, but
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah,
another argument on the internet.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I already knew about the meme before I even watched it. And I'm like, oh, why do people hate Amelia? She's fine, I guess. Like, I don't hate her or anything. But then the show kind of just like ditches her and then makes Rem sort of like the main girl for like a while. So then I think it's pretty natural just to like Rem more just because she's in the show more. And I mean, I still like Rem more anyway. But I think it's not really fair to like hate Amelia just because she didn't really have too much screen time in season 1, which does change a bit in season 2. She does show up more. But yeah, I just Rem is just a very likable character, and like just her prep talks and Subaru things just are like super nice, and I just really liked it. And yeah, like you said, I really like the supporting characters. I love Beatrice, I love Rom, and I love Roswell as well. The villains were great as well. What's his face? Beetlejuice, whatever his name was. He was creepy and great. I loved him. And yeah, and again, the show is very dialogue heavy. It doesn't really have too many fight scenes, but when it does, it's really good.
Yeah.
I love it. And just how the anime saves time by not showing intros or outros and just keeps going is super like super great. Like that's like even if you don't like the show, that's pretty universally praised by like anyone, that the show really like gives you all the content it can before it has to end, which is great. I love that, and that's a trend that is still going in season 2, which is great to see. I really do like that. If they don't have time for an intro or outro, they're just like, no, just keep going. And I love that. It's great.
Yeah, they definitely don't do intros and outros that often. They literally squeeze as much as they can in the 25 minutes you're there for, and it's great. I mean, for me personally, like it's just sort of like, oh, okay, so like when it is a 25-minute episode, it is a 25-minute episode compared to like watching something like God of High School where like they have intros and outros, and even sometimes like the middle transition. So like when it's like 23 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay, it's probably like 20 something, like 20 minutes or something like that. But yeah, like overall, like ReZero, it is a lot of dialogue. There was points where I'm not sure if the subtitles were going faster or like I'm just slow at reading, but like sometimes I would have to like go back like a couple seconds to like reread what it actually said because I didn't like get the last part of it. But yeah, ReZero was just super duper good. Definitely a great isekai to like really get into because I think that a lot of people can agree that like it is one of the better ones of recent times. So
yeah, I mean it's people say it's like the best one, and I probably have to agree since most isekais are like super power fantasies. I think Sword Art Online is a good one where it's just like, oh, this dude's a mega Chad like here, and like all the girls love him and like all that, and I'm super powerful. Almost every isekai is like that. The only ones that are different is this one and Konosuba, but Konosuba is more like a comedy and it's really good too. But this one is like as a serious show, I think it does a great job portraying the fish out of water and him just being useless, and like everyone else around him is like and all that stuff. It's great. I really do like ReZero. I think season 2 again. I think he really builds the world even more and things like that. Since season 1 is really focused on Subaru, season 2 really expands to see like what this world is really about. And yeah, it's kind of a slow burn, but I think if you're not really hooked by the first episode with the whole go back in time mechanic, I'll say just give it a little more time. Like if you're annoyed by Subaru, just give him more time because he does get better. And yeah, I just love the show. I think it's fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely definitely a show where like you have to get like a lot of episodes in before you like decide if like it's really for you, because I think the whole mechanic about like, oh, he died and then he goes back to where he was and he's the only one that remembers everything. So yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment. Like if you're not super hooked in on that like mechanic of the show, you're not going to be super fond of the show altogether, because that's pretty much the entire show where like Subaru like sees some fucked up shit or like he dies or both, and then he has to go back and sort of figure out how that can happen again. So yeah, ReZero, great show. I think I'll wait a little bit, maybe just wait until season 2's all done before I jump into that.
Yeah, it's mid-season. I mean, I'm watching it dubbed, so I have to wait anyway.
Oh, okay.
I watched it a year ago. Okay. I'm actually kind of happy I watched it dubbed because again, it's very dialogue heavy. So I'm like, all right, I think it's pretty good dubbed too.
Yeah.
But and yeah, so I'm behind too. But they just had their mid-season finale for season or episode 13, so it's gonna be on break for a while. So yeah, that's where it's at right now. So.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's get into the Spider-Man talk. This is all about the Marvel Spider-Man PlayStation 5 remaster. So the first thing we should talk about is the fact that there's no free upgrade for the PlayStation 5 remaster for Spider-Man. So if you guys don't know what this means, it's that like if you bought the PlayStation 4 version of Marvel Spider-Man that came out in 2018, you cannot get the remaster on the PlayStation 5, and you can't buy it separately from the Ultimate Edition. They are still offering free upgrades for anyone that buys Miles Morales on the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, and I think they're trying to get the saves to transfer as well, but the saves will not transfer for the from the PlayStation 4 original Spider-Man to the remaster. Okay. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of like confusing parts in here. So pretty much, if you want to play this new version of Marvel Spider-Man on the PlayStation 5 with all the new graphics and the shiny features, you're gonna have to get the Ultimate Edition as of right now, because they're not releasing it separately or physically from the Ultimate Edition. So what do you think about that first, Damian?
I think so you can only buy it from the Ultimate Edition, right? Like you have to buy the $70 one.
Yeah.
That's kind of dumb. I think they should make it separately as well. Like I know it's kind of like as a bonus at this point. But it would have been cool to have it as like a $20 game, I guess, Just have it on the have it at launch. It's something people could play with a PS5 if they didn't play Spider. I know you can still buy Spider-Man on the PS4, right? Like because it's all backwards compatible and stuff like that. But
it's okay.
But you know what I mean. Like it should be like a 20. I don't know. It's hard to say because how much is Spider-Man now? It's $20, right? The PS4 one.
Yeah, with all of the DLC. So I mean,
all right.
The way I view it is that like Sony doesn't have a reason to like release it separately because the game already sold millions of copies. They're sort of just like bundling it into this Ultimate Edition to like force consumers to buy it if they want to play the remaster, which is a little scummy, but like it's just how Sony views it because like I said, the game already sold millions and millions of copies, so what's the point of them re-releasing this remaster despite it just being sort of shinier, 60 FPS, and the new Peter Parker model, which we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, I can see why people are upset about it not being separate, but from a business perspective, like it makes sense. So yeah, if you want to play the remaster of Spider-Man, you gotta get the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, I still think that's a little lame, but it makes sense, I guess. They could charge at least like $30, I guess, for it. Even then, I think that's too much, it should just be a $20, like, here's the Spider-Man remaster for PS5, as a separate thing. Maybe they
Yeah.
might still do that. I don't know. You know how companies are. They might still, like, when Miles Morales gets a little older, they might be like, oh, here's Spider-Man on PS5. Like, here you go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah.
I definitely think this is gonna be like a little side tangent, but when Jeff Keighley, the day that the whole PlayStation sort of reveal happened, he tweeted out that Miles Morales is coming to PS4 and PS5 for $49.99, and he had a screenshot of the Ultimate Edition in there. And some people really thought that the Ultimate Edition was going to be $50, but turns out that is not the case. So I think that he's somewhat responsible for people being super upset about like not having it sort of be part of like the base game or even it being sold separately. Not entirely, obviously, but I think that him just dropping this tweet, saying that it's $50 along with a screenshot of the Ultimate Edition was definitely a little reckless, but that's just sort of like my little rant on that. But yeah, I think that Sony's just doing what they think is best for sort of like their business aspect.
Right. It makes sense. It's a good incentive to get the Ultimate Edition, and to make it $70.
Yep, they make it $70 to get that little bit of extra money, and they're just trying to maximize the sales for the Miles Morales game. So,
Right.
And just yesterday, we got more details on the remaster in a separate PlayStation blog post. I mean, first up, like the image that they show off right at the start of the article, oh my God, I was just like, yes, it looks amazing. Look at this ray tracing, the reflection on the cars. Oh my God, that looks so good. But other details include that it's going to be a voucher code, and it is only available through the Ultimate Edition. We got a first look at the new Peter Parker model, which I think will be a huge point of discussion, and also the 60 FPS gameplay, which they had a little video attached to it, which if you do watch it with the 60 FPS YouTube settings, it looks amazing, and it definitely makes the game look a lot smoother and a lot more fun to swing around New York City. So yeah, definitely people who say you can't notice the difference between 30 and 60 are 100% lying, because this 60 FPS footage of Marvel Spider-Man I was just like, yes, this is what I want, because it looks amazing. And speaking of amazing, I did not mean to do that. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit is going to be part of the 3 new suits that are going to be in the game. So say what you will about the suit, it looks great in game. So
I like the Amazing Spider-Man suit.
I think it looks fine, but I know that some people are not a huge fan of it. But what do you think about this article in general?
So the 60 FPS, obviously that's really good. I think people saying that they can't notice the difference are weird. like it's always gonna be a good thing, like having that 60 FPS, and like having it like just run smoother. Like, why wouldn't you want that? Or people that don't notice that is just weird. It has to be like just console people that don't notice. Like, I know usually these exclusives are really good at hiding the 30 FPS. Like, you can't really notice it if you don't focus too much on it. But when it does go 60 FPS, it's like, oh, that's so much better. Like, obviously, like, the enhanced graphics look fantastic. The new suit, that's cool. But then you have the elephant in the room, which a lot of people are talking about.
It's the Peter Parker model.
Yeah, the Peter Parker model. So I guess my opinion on it is it's fine. I don't really see why they had to change it so drastically, since I thought the old Peter Parker kind of fit this Spider-Man better just because he felt older. Like, he felt like a mid-20s guy. For this Spider-Man, just kind of feels like a knockoff Tom Holland a bit. And it's kind of weird. And I know Tom Holland is also like mid-20s, I think, but still, like, he just looks way younger than he should be. Again, it's not like a deal breaker for me. Like, I don't really care at the end of the day. I'll just get used to it. But I definitely feel like they were trying to make him look more like MCU Spider-Man instead of like have his own identity. And I have a crazy conspiracy that I don't know if this is no one take this as true, because I have no idea. This is in my own head. So as we know, Avengers is supposed to be having Spider-Man, right? And in the Avengers game, all of them kind of look like weird knockoffs of who they're supposed to look like, right? Like you have like knockoff like Scarlett Johansson and like knockoff other people. I guess Iron Man doesn't look like Robert Downey Jr., but whatever. You know what I mean? Like they kind of look like the MCU counterparts, just like weird. So my theory is that this model as Spider-Man is gonna be in Avengers, and they kind of just want him to look like Tom Holland, so people are like, oh, I'm like playing as Tom Holland, but not. I don't know. That's my own like stupid conspiracy theory. I don't know if that's true or not, but obviously kind of made him look like him. I know they didn't say it, but he kind of looks like him a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'm not like angry about it. It's just like it's just a little weird. That's all. What do you think about Peter Parker?
I mean, yeah, I just plug in my Medium page over here. If you want to go to medium.com/@tvsonic, you can check out my gaming journalist articles or whatever. But yeah, the new Peter Parker model, I think that a lot of people, including myself, when they first started, I was like, ooh, okay, they really, like, I knew that they were going to change it. Like, we talked about it, the PlayStation 5 reveal episode, which might have been last episode. I can't exactly remember. But we talked about how, like, oh, okay, there's going to be a new Peter Parker model. Like, that's probably going to be a good thing. And for a lot of people, it's not, because it just looks so different, which I agree. I think that the change was a little too drastic. I think that they maybe should have gotten someone else who maybe looked similar to the old person, or maybe just use that person in general. But the reason why they did it, which a lot of people did not read this, is that they wanted to have a better match for the actor who actually played Spider-Man, like his facial capture. So they, casted a whole new actor to sort of match that. And it's understandable, but I think that they maybe should have went someone who looked a little bit older. And I think that a lot of people may not remember, but when the first Peter Parker model was like revealed, like the original PlayStation 4 game, when I first saw that, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure if that looks like Peter, sort of thing. But like I didn't like shout out and be like, oh my God, I hate this model, Insomniac, fix it. It was more just like, oh, okay, like he looks different. But at the end of the day, guys, Peter Parker's just a white boy. So like this new one, like I'll let you say what you gotta say.
I just say, yeah, it's kind of true. Like, and most of the time you're gonna see him in Spider-Man like outfits anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Because most of the time I see Peter Parker, I'm just gonna be like, all right, it's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna care. I really don't care that much. Like, I think I prefer the older model. Maybe they could just touch it up a bit. But they want to do a new thing, so whatever. I'll just deal with it. But I'm not like throwing a fit about it.
Yeah, and like I think the main criticism is like valid, is that he just looks a lot younger than the old
he does
model.
Look a lot younger,
a lot younger. So I think that I'm not sure if they're gonna get a new actor or if they're gonna scrap this whole idea altogether. But I mean, it's been like almost 24 hours since this article released, and honestly, I'm getting kind of used to it. Sort of like looking at him, like I don't view him as like a super young Tom Holland, but he definitely looks younger than before, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, I mean, if they're going to change it or not, I'm not entirely sure, because people on Twitter, like, I feel so bad for the Insomniac Twitter guy who had to, like, reply to every single person. I was like, change it, fix it, why'd you guys do this? Who had to kept saying, hey, yo, read the blog post, please, because we did it to match Yuri Lowenthal's performance more. And I'm just like, people don't read, so it is what it is. But yeah, I just think that the Peter Parker model, maybe they could age him up a little bit more, maybe just get a different person altogether. But at the end of the day, like, Peter Parker's just a white boy. So I think that getting super upset about this new model change is a little ridiculous, but also understandable, just because people have grown so attached to that Peter now, because they love the game so much. When it gets fixed and it's like a whole new sort of person they're looking at who doesn't resemble at all what the old model looked like, it does suck. But yeah, I'm not gonna like at Insomniac Games, please fix the model or whatever, because like at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get used to it as time goes on, just like with the last one. So
yeah, again, not a big deal. People, you know how people are.
We know how the internet is at this point, but yeah, definitely, something that either people are going to get used to, or Insomniac Games are going to sort of pull the plug on it and maybe go with another person. But I doubt it, because even the creative director, I forget his name, Brian I or whatever, he literally came out with a screenshot of like his computer screen with the statement. Instead of like screenshotting it from the computer, he took a picture of it and then he posted it on Twitter. But pretty much what he said was that even for him, like, it took a while for him to get used to the new Peter Parker model. And yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people were just like, it is what it is. some people are wondering if there's like the option to like change it back to the old model on the PlayStation 5
Probably
remaster,
not.
which yeah, guys, it's probably not gonna happen just because they went with this new actor because they wanted it to match Yuri's performance on this next gen hardware. So yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much all I really have to say about the whole Peter Parker model shenanigans, because people on the internet are very hissy-fissy about it, but I think it's okay to not like it at first, but I'm sure over time people will get used to it, and yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else I can really add besides people just being babies about it, like they always are.
Yep. Okay. So the game still looks great, though. The game definitely.
Yeah, it does. It looks really good. Yeah,
it definitely looks really, really good. I cannot wait to replay it again.
Yeah, but what is this, your third time or something?
Yeah, maybe third, fourth. I don't even know at this
God.
point, but yeah, I really, really love this game. But anything else you'd like to add, Gitsa?
No, I think that's everything.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian Podcast, episode 46. We will see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
See ya.